Welcome to the Achieve Results Now podcast, the podcast that gives you immediate actions you can take to start seeing life-shifting results now. Hey everybody, welcome to the Achieve Results Now podcast. This is Mark Cardone.
And Theron Feidt.
So here we are today. It's December when we're recording this. It's getting to the end of the year. People are talking about goals, achievement, new you mentality is happening right now. And we're talking about something that just like nails all of those things together. And it's a quote that you kind of wrote down. So I'm gonna let you start us out with it.
Yeah, and I wrote it down a month or so ago. It's been on our notes that we share, and I don't remember where it came from. It was a book or a podcast or something I was reading or listening to, and it's victory is won or lost by your thinking. Okay, so very simple quote. I would like to, and I don't know, I might have like meshed it together from something I heard, so I don't know if it's somebody's actual quote or whatever. But regardless, it's a very good quote. So one more time, victory is won or lost by your thinking. So it's a very simple, concise. That's it.
And you know, it's funny because like when I first read it, I was like, oh, here we are, another mindset quote, blah blah blah, right? But when I really dug into it a little bit, I said, you know, this is the people I talk to who are achieving and the people I talk to who are struggling, all struggle with some little things in that deal with this quote. You know what I mean? So I think the action steps that we put together or the thoughts that we put together, you know, are really going to help people get to that next level, you know, that they want to get to when they're the things they're struggling with.
And I'm really big on leadership, you know. This has been a subject of my study and practice for 35 years. And, you know, I one of my goals every day is to build leaders, you know, build leaders in the dojo, but really more importantly, build leaders that go outside the dojo. You know, think of all the people that have gone through the dojo that have come through, got their second, third, fourth, fifth degrees, and a lot of them are still here. But others, especially if they're young and achieving, they're off in other parts of the country or even the world. And hopefully the leadership that was taught here at the dojo, they're spreading that, you know. And one of the things I think is very common is the mindset that they learn from the dojo. You know, if you're not involved in martial arts or a good martial arts, you think it's just self-defense, or you think it's just fighting, or you think it's the UFC. But even those guys in the UFC, as amazing as they are, and women for sure, because some of the women fights are better than the guy fights. That are there, they have to have a great mindset. You know, now they don't all have like a winner's mindset. I wouldn't say winner's mindset. Probably they don't have like a positive mindset necessarily. But many of them do, you know, especially the ones with martial arts background. So I think, you know, we're going to go through the three things like we normally do. And I think they're very powerful. I think everybody's going to get a lot out of this.
You know, I love martial arts as an analogy, though, just to hit this real quick, because I think, you know, to outsiders especially, you know, and to, you know, people who are just getting involved in the martial arts, but I think general consensus, people kind of understand how it works. You know, people who aren't super familiar, they think, okay, you start at white belt, and then when you get your black belt, you kind of win karate. Right? Quote. You won karate. You got your black belt. You learned everything there is to learn, and you're an expert. And what's interesting about the martial arts is, you know, when you look at a lot of dojo, you know, our dojo, a lot of dojos throughout the country, a good portion of the students are black belts that are still training. So why, you know, is always the question, and it's because, you know, really there is no winning karate, right? There's always, as we get older, there's always more things to learn, more things to challenge ourselves with. And that's where we get into those upper levels. And I think as an analogy to our personal development, you know, like when we look at life, when we look at business, when we look at our relationships, you don't win marriage, right? Like you don't win marriage. Marriage has different stages, and you have to grow, adapt, and get better as a husband, a wife, a spouse, you know, throughout. There's not like oh, I'm an expert, I'm good, I don't have to learn anymore. You know, so I think, you know, part of this is just realizing that victory is not the end. You know, victory is something that we're constantly, you know, small battles that we're winning over and over again.
Yeah, and real quick on what you just said is, Um, if you listen to this in order, I think it would have been last week we just released how to become a lifelong learner. You
Yeah.
know, and this is certainly tied into that. You
Yeah.
know, for sure.
Absolutely. So, so let's get into our thoughts because I think you touched on one just a little bit ago, but the
Yeah.
first step is really it's all about your positive mindset.
Right.
It's about having the ability to, put in your head, that victory's on the way. I think that's a
Yeah.
big part of it.
Yeah. And people say, oh, that positive, it doesn't work. Yeah, it does. You know,
Yeah.
of course it does. If you're positive with people, they're going to want to be around you more,
Yeah.
right? I mean, that alone will help you in life because
Hmm.
people feel good when they're around you because you compliment them.
Yeah.
You tell them good things. They're looking forward to it. They're looking forward to talking to you. They feel good after they talk to you. How is that bad? That's
Yeah.
not only a positive, it's a net positive. It's going to improve your life and the people around you.
Yeah. If you're a positive person, people want to be around you. People,
Yep.
that energy radiates. But I think taking it even a step further, and we've had this conversation on the podcast before, but I always think about how terrible I am at golf. My
Worse than
ball,
worse than boating.
I'm way worse than boating.
Wow.
I thought of a podcast all about boat analogies
Oh,
that we
great.
should do.
Oh,
Um, but I think about how terrible I am at golf, and I think about like, when I go golfing with my dad and my ball goes way out of line, he always says the same thing. And he's like, it's okay, straight shot to the hole from there.
yeah.
Right? Because no matter where, and like, of course, no matter where your ball goes, it's a straight shot to the hole. But I think, as we all strive for this achievement, this thing called achievement, we have to understand that, it's not a straight line. Like we're gonna end up in places that we didn't realize, and you can get ticked off that you're not where you wanted to be, and that's very
Right.
easy to do.
Right.
But having that mindset that, listen, man, I'm still moving forward, I'm still working toward the thing,
Yeah.
that level of mindset will help you
Right.
not, break your club in half and hit a tree.
That is what a great thing to say to your son.
Right?
Seriously, though, even at your age, it's still nice to have your father
Yeah.
tell you something positive versus what the hell were you thinking? Why did you do all the things that some fathers do?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Little
that
little bits of wisdom, but
yeah, for sure.
but
So
like that level of like, what would this look like if this were good, right?
yeah,
Like when because bad things are going to happen, bad news is going to come, but
sure.
what would the story be around this if this were positive is a great
Yes.
way to look at it.
Yeah, yeah. And my point on a positive mindset is you have to look at your habitual thinking, and we
Yeah,
all have it, right? What do you do when you encounter an obstacle in your life? And I'm talking oftentimes it's better to start with the small obstacles.
yeah,
Let's say somebody cuts you off in traffic, or let's say something happened where it's not going to really affect your whole life, but it maybe affects you for an hour.
yeah,
What is your response to that? I think you work on those little things that are small, and instead of reacting negatively, you respond. You take a beat, you respond, and say, "Well, it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. It
yeah,
doesn't matter." That will help you set up better thinking for the big things.
yes,
So when the big things happen to you, it's not the end of the world. Now,
yeah,
obviously there are some big things, deaths, that are people that die that are close to you, car accidents, all of those things, of course. But I truly believe those big things when they happen to you,
yeah.
you can help yourself by working on the smaller things so they're not as devastating,
Oh,
right?
so upstate New York, it snowed yesterday for the first
Right.
time this season.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
some people were absolutely emotionally crushed by it.
Yeah.
And if
It's
you got emotionally crushed because it snowed yesterday,
uh,
when the earthquake comes, the proverbial earthquake, not a real earthquake, but when the
okay.
when that earthquake comes, you are going to be in for a beating.
Right.
Like, and as someone who's been through, you know, death, bad things, all this stuff. I'll tell you, like some of my relationships have gotten so much deeper, because somebody passed away, right? And
Yeah.
listen, I'm not happy the person passed away. That would be
No.
callous and terrible. I almost said a
Right.
bad word.
Yes, you
We
almost
would have to
did.
go adult. But there are benefits and growth opportunities in everything. So
Yeah, for
I
sure.
100% I think positive mindset is a number one thing that people can work on.
Yeah, and along with this, just to drive this point home, it's also helped me, and I know it's helped a lot of my students. Is it helps you drive through obstacles as well, right?
Hmm.
Is so if you have a positive mindset at looking at something, that doesn't mean that you don't see what's wrong and you're not realistic with the things that are wrong, but you also know that you can overcome it,
Yeah.
right? That's the positiveness, and that's what's going to help you. And what happens to your energy
Right.
level when you know, okay, this is going to be tough, but that's why working out, and especially martial arts training, and especially when you're getting in the ring and you're facing somebody or even sparring somebody that's tough, the practice part, and you overcome that, and maybe you don't beat them, but you at least didn't get beaten that bad.
Yeah.
I mean, what a great way to train your brain to be
Yeah.
like, okay, I didn't die from that. I can get better.
Hmm.
And that's what helps. That
100%.
yeah.
All right, so let's get into thought number two. So I think
Okay.
this is the one that I think people know the most. Like people hear it all the time,
Yeah.
but people don't do it, right? And I think that's focus and clarity.
Yeah.
And I think it's having that ability to see what victory looks like in your head, and almost like clearly define what am I trying to win here?
Right. Yeah. This is so often people they're so quick to say what they don't want.
Hmm.
The opposite of goal setting is, well, I don't want this. I don't want that. Well, that's not how you set goals of what you don't want, because you're not going to achieve that. You have to think, and sometimes it is the opposite, but it's not always the opposite. So you have to get clear with, okay, this is what I do want. So I don't like this. I don't feel good doing this. What will I feel good doing, or what will move me down the road, so I'm accomplishing something, right? And being clear on what you need to do, the action steps, that's what you have to get down.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely you need to be able to focus on what you need to do. And we spend so much time because it makes people feel good, right? Thinking like, well, I'd like to do this, I'd like to do that, to the point where like we talk to people ad nausea, right, about the things we'd
Yeah.
like to do, but it's rare that you see people who actually break into that action step, where they're focused
Yeah.
enough to know what they need to do. Um, I think that's just such a, a defining thing for people.
Yeah. Most people focus on they major in minor things,
Yeah.
and I think that probably was a Brian Tracy quote, way back in the day. Don't major in minor things.
Hmm.
If it's not him, it's somebody like him.
Yeah.
And that simply means that if you're focusing on your low priorities, things that are easy, that don't really affect your day, and aren't really going to move you to achieve your goals, you're just doing that, um, just to feel good,
Yeah.
versus the long term of really accomplishing something.
Yeah. I mean,
So what's most important? What's going to really make the difference in your day?
yeah, I mean, I think daydreaming is great. Like I think there's a lot of value in, sitting around, a day a year and just kind of dreaming about, what can I be in
Sure.
5 years? What can I do? Like
Yeah.
that's all part of the goal setting process, but I feel like, sometimes what we need to really look at is we need to look at our goals and say, like, is this specific enough? Is this, and people who get into it and say, well, I want to lose, 10 pounds in, 2 weeks and, and
Right.
like some people can operate that way. Some
Yeah.
people can operate just saying, listen, man, I want to be healthy enough to be able to not miss my kid's childhood because I'm
Right.
too out of shape to run around the yard with them.
Right.
And
Right.
like everyone who's an achiever knows we set goals the way we set goals. There's
Yeah.
no right or wrong. I mean, definitely a wrong way
Yeah.
to set goals,
But
but
there's many right ways.
there's many right ways to set goals. The biggest way to set them wrong is not to set them at all.
Right.
But I think having that clarity around our purpose, what we want, what victory looks like, I just think it helps people start to move and take action.
Yeah. And the last point I have on this is the power of visualization.
Yeah.
Sit down, close your eyes, don't fall asleep, try not to, but visualize, what are you looking for? What do you want? I talk about this with my students when they're getting ready to perform, especially if it's a performance that they just learn. Oftentimes we'll put a demo together in a week or two. If it's a big demo, we might do 3 weeks, but it's a fairly quick time to get a bunch of stuff down that you're going to perform live. Like the show that we just did, I think it was about an hour and 20 minute show. And you were helping with that with the demo team. I mean, most everything that they performed was creative.
Yeah.
It was put together. And well, in order to do that live under pressure with hundreds of people watching you, what helps is if you sit down and visualize yourself going through the moves and going through and performing perfectly, that's going to lead you towards a better performance in the long run. You can do that with if you're doing a speech, if you're giving a speech, if you're talking to somebody, if you're going to perform martial arts, anything, you can visualize yourself going through that. And that's a great mental exercise. And what that does is it's almost as good as practicing, for real. It really is. And sometimes they say it's better.
Yeah.
Depending on what it is. So definitely learning how to do that. It doesn't come easy for most people, and it takes a lot of practice, but it's well worth it.
That's a great point. Absolutely. And then the last one, this is the icing on the cake. This is the one that people say they have this, but they don't.
Yeah.
We run into this on a day-to-day basis. And I want to start, before we get into this one, I want to start with, I looked up the definition of victory.
Okay.
Right. Because we're talking about victory being won or lost by your mindset. And the definition of victory is an act of defeating an enemy or opponent in a battle, game, or other competition. Now, that's not the sum total definition of everything. But when we're talking about, achieving victory on a very small, but at the same time, very large scale, self-belief is that step that we need to take, that mindset. We have to have self-belief, and the opponent to our self-belief is that voice in our head that we have to defeat on a daily, minute by minute basis.
Right. Yep. Yeah. It's a positive self-talk. You need to be your biggest cheerleader. You need to come up with reasons why you're confident. It's important that, confidence is a big part of that. You don't want false confidence, and it's a balance of doing things and acting like you're confident. Act as if. That's a principle that we talk about. That's all important, but you truly want true confidence, that you've done this before, that you've proven yourself. And when you take action and you're getting better, that should add your confidence level. When I'm talking to a parent and how to get their kids to focus more, well, that parent, that might be their first or even their second child. Well, to me, yes, I have 2 kids that I raised. However, how many other kids have you and I raised? How many tens of thousands of kids have we seen come through the program in the past 35 years?
Yeah.
That we took them from not looking at, we don't even know the color of their eyes because they're looking down, to now they're teachers on our floor and running groups of 40 or 50 kids with confidence. And then that, well, that just didn't happen. Mm-hmm. Right? We taught them how to do that. So I have confidence that I can teach any kid how to be more confident, or any adult how to be more confident, right? It's not like I'm guessing. I exactly know how to do that. But that didn't happen just because I read a bunch of books, although I did. I have proof, right?
Proof in pudding.
Yeah. And so that's what I'm talking about, is to get confidence is take action and do stuff, and then add to it and stack it. So that way your confidence is really has a base. So if somebody challenges you, there's no challenge. It's like, well, have you done that?
Right.
Yeah, I have. Have you?
Well, and it's interesting because along with, helping, thousands and thousands of kids go from, not confident to confident and unfocused to focused,
Right.
we run into an equal amount of parents who say, "Well, you don't understand my kid; they're different."
Right. Yeah.
Right. We can also confidently say to a lot of those people, and listen, we don't discount, we obviously evaluate every kid on a case by case
Sure.
basis,
Yeah.
but at the same time, like, how many parents have said, "Well, you don't understand, my kid's different," and we've said, "Well, they're actually not that different. They fit
Right.
in with all the other kids great." So, I mean, having that, confidence because you've done things
Yeah.
is really important. So I think it's important for us to, when we're doing something new, to say, "Oh, like, I've kind of done this before. I've experienced victories today," right? What
Hmm.
we talk about, writing our victories down at the end of the day, the end of the
Right.
week, right? What were my wins? Because
Right.
we all have those wins, but one of the things I always talk about with self-belief, I always wanted to wake up at five, like I wake up at 5 a.m. every day. That was one of my goals for years because I
Yeah.
wanted, that extra time to
Hmm.
actually get things done before anybody was awake. And, especially once my kids came along, because anyone who has kids knows, once they wake up when they're real little, your
Yeah.
day, you
You're
are
done.
done, right?
Yeah. You're done.
And I remember thinking over and over again, like, I'd set my alarm, I'd hit snooze, I'd set my alarm, I'd hit snooze. And then I would say, I'm just not, like, I'd get to the point where I'd set that goal and I'd say, I just can't do it. I'm just not
Yeah.
that person. But then I'd have a flight scheduled for 4:30 or 5, and I'd be at the airport by 3.
Yeah.
So I know I can wake up,
Right.
or hey, we're leaving for vacation at 3:30 in the morning. I'm up at
Okay.
2, right?
Up
So
into yeah.
so
Yeah.
you think about, those were victories where I did the thing
Yeah.
completely unrelated to
Right.
why, but my brain's telling me I can't
Hmm.
do it.
Right.
And now I know I can do it because I do it every day. But, you know,
Yeah.
finding those little victories and turning them into fuel to help you realize you can do this is a
Right.
great piece of advice.
Yeah, and that leads into my one of my other points that I had is that leads into motivation, right?
Hmm.
So now you're motivated, and what happens is success breeds more success.
Yeah.
So when you have those little victories and just the small little ones, and all of a sudden, well, I can do this, and now you're more motivated to do it more. We see it all the time with our students, young and old, adults coming in, right? We just had a large crew of adults achieve their first degree black belt that started many years ago as a group, and they're all in. Well, there's one that's in his 20s, but the rest of them are 40 and above, right? And what did I hear from a lot of them? And I know you've taught a lot of them too. Many of them were, well, first I'm not sure if I can do it, and then they achieve this belt and they achieve that belt, and all along the way, and even as they were 6 months away from their black belt, hopefully, is they were achieving a lot of goals even then, and they were increasing their belief even then. And what happens to their motivation,
Yeah.
right? How is their motivation the last 5 weeks of the cycle,
Hmm.
which they know they're eligible to get their black belt, but they know they have 5 weeks to get everything down and stay in shape and all that. What happened during those 5 weeks? There was ups and downs, but what happened to their motivation? It continued to go up, you know, and that's because they were doing these little victories, and their belief in themselves
Yeah.
improved.
And I think that's a really good analogy because like when I was teaching that class last night, and I'm looking at these adults who are doing things that most adults I know over 40 cannot do, right?
Right.
And most, and all of them at, when they first started however many years ago, also could not do it.
Yeah.
But it's that small building of belief, step by step, by accomplishing those little victories in
Yeah.
between, that eventually lead, so people who are like, "Oh, I'm just gonna, go run 10 miles tomorrow." It's like, well, you're
Yeah.
probably not. You're probably going to be sore.
Right.
You're probably going to injure yourself. But go out and, take a jog around the block, maybe walk a little bit, and then, now you believe in yourself, and now tomorrow you can do better.
Right.
Um, because I think we do tend to put these huge demands on ourselves when, especially this time of year, when we go, "This is my goal. I'm going to do this big thing," and then we never start it because we're terrified that we're going to
Right.
fail. You know, when if you just say, I'm going to do this little thing today, there's a 100% chance of success, and you're building that belief. So,
yeah. And just to wrap my part up with this, I had also written down resilience, and we did actually, I think it was the podcast, the Samurai was resilience one of them. Yep. And so if you want to listen to that, I can put that in there in the show notes, but it wasn't too far back. It was only less than 2 months. But resilience helps you overcome the setbacks and obstacles because you're going to have them, right? So you're going to have some, hopefully you have daily victories that lead to build your confidence and your self-esteem. However, you're going to have setbacks. But if your belief is strong, you know the setback is just that, just a setback, right? And oftentimes your setbacks are setups for something greater, something better. Just because you didn't achieve something now doesn't mean you're not going to achieve it in the future. And oftentimes you're going to find that you're better off. You know, how often do we have to recycle, as we call the black belt candidates, and they have to go through a whole other cycle, maybe 2, maybe 3, and all of them, if they do complete it and don't quit, what do they say to you and me? They say, thank you for recycling me, because I am so much better and I have such a better understanding of what it means to be a black belt. And that was the right decision. Now, instead of me saying, I know, which I think it in my head, because I do know, I say thank you, because at least they're acknowledging that, you know. But truly, this all encompasses the resilience part of that mindset of, I know, okay, I failed, but my failure is only temporary. It's not forever. And that's part of that victory mindset as well. That failure or setbacks are not permanent.
Yeah. Unless nobody who stops ever wins.
Exactly.
Right? And you know, I think, you know, I forgot who said the quote, but the difference between a rut and a grave is the dimensions, right? And you know, and we do hit those failures, we hit those obstacles, and we go through them and we keep going. So absolutely 100%. So let's review. So victories won or lost by our thinking. This was like a lot of stuff in here, and it's a lot of mental stuff. So thought number 1, positive positive mindset. You know, being more positive, keeping that positive spin on things, remembering every step you make is a step toward your goal, a step in the right direction.
Thought number 2 is focus and clarity. Being clear and focused on your goals and what you want versus what you don't want. And along with that is the visualization of it all.
Yeah. And number 3, self-belief and resilience. So making sure that you're really winning that battle over the voice in your head that's telling you can't do it. Make those victories, see those victories, and, you know, add some proof to the pudding that you can do this. And that wraps up this episode of the Achieve Results Now podcast. Thanks for listening, everybody. Please share this with somebody who would enjoy it, and we'll see you on the next show.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening. Hop over to our website at www.achieveresultsnow.com to get your free copy of our book, Ignite Results, 4 specific daily actions to help you achieve results now. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Achieve Results Now. Thanks for listening, commenting, and subscribing. Now get out there and achieve results now.